This is Tampa Home Talk. Thanks so much for joining me today. Leo, I know you're excited to kick off this hour. And
we kick off every hour with numbers.
We're going to talk about numbers.
Engineering and inspection, we've got numbers, and I've got numbers, and I even created my own segment of numbers for our show.
So let's talk about our guests for this morning. We'll tell you what's coming up, and then we'll hop on over to the numbers as you would expect every Friday morning. So this morning, we have Mr. David Greene joining us at Woods Trial Law. Welcome.
Good to be here.
And we're going to have a lot of fun because we're going to talk about construction defects, which I know is your favorite topic.
One of my favorite topics.
Oh, yes, yes. So I'll probably just have a little fun and ask whatever pops up, but I'm sure Leo will be doing most of the talking, at least in the first hour. So let's chat about these numbers, shall we?
Well, I had a oh my moment because I think this number of pendings is just through the roof.
So let's talk about this because literally last week the number of actives was 792 and this week it's 901. And Leah goes, oh good, we're getting some more inventory. Looks like things are rebounding. Not so fast there, buddy. So we see the number of sold properties is also up to 993 over last week at 852.
So this higher number of pendings must mean that the banks are taking longer to close.
No, those are ones that went under contract.
Oh, these are... I don't understand.
7 days.
I don't understand. Every month or every week, this is double. Last week was 1.5. The week before that was 1.5.
In all fairness, that number could represent a little bit of a delay in the banks.
Okay, that probably has to be a delay in the banks because other than that, you can't have an entire year of there being substantially more houses under contract that are going on the market.
I can actually pull that and tell you how many came pending in the last 7 days, and we'll do that.
So sold would be the ones that have closed.
Correct.
Okay. Yeah, no, this just doesn't make sense.
In 7 days.
So in the past 7 days, you're telling me that 900 houses went on the market, but 1,700
are now pending.
That doesn't make any sense.
I think we are only pulling that 7 days back. I'm going to double check my, I'll have Mimi check it to make sure.
Who's doing this? Is this like a third grader? It's like the teacher gave me 3 apples. I give 2 to my friend, and then I give 3 to my other friend. How many apples do I have left?
No, I'm pretty sure it's all being pulled within 7 days. I'll verify pending as well because we're looking at that.
I mean, there hasn't
every 7 days.
There hasn't been a single week that has gone by this year where the pendings haven't been substantially higher than the actives.
I know. I mean, but you got to think how many you think fall through for inspections? Probably not as many as there used to be, but some are still falling through.
Oh, we've seen clients taking homes they shouldn't, which is why we have David Greene here in the office from Wood Trials Law.
Yeah, this is gonna get interesting.
To talk about homes you shouldn't be buying that you ended up buying.
What else do you have going on there in your numbers? I can't even read that chicken scratch.
Well, are we done talking about the?
I suppose so. Yeah.
It's kind of boring to talk about the same thing week after week. This is just shocking this week on how much of a disparity there is between houses that have gone under contract compared to houses that are on the market.
Well, it's interesting to watch, and the cool thing about watching this every week is really having my thumb on the market. So I know exactly what's happening all the time in the market and to you, at least our immediate market.
Yeah, because it's going to take like 5 months before GTAR will release these same numbers.
Oh, yeah, you're right. It's pretty delayed. Florida Realtors has to have a whole bunch of stuff, and then, they eventually report it. But by then, we could be in a totally different market. We saw that with COVID. Remember, we were looking at the Florida Realtors numbers?
I did.
And we're like, oh, yeah, this is not accurate. Like, yeah, we probably need to just do our own.
Speaking of numbers, I have some weather statistics for us.
All right, let's talk about those weather stats.
So January in Florida is traditionally the coldest month of the year. On average, in January, your temperature is the lowest. I always thought it was December or February because, groundhog comes up.
No, I'd say January.
Groundhog sees its shadow. It goes hibernating again, and we get 6 more weeks of winter. But January is the coldest month of the year. The low temperature average is 52 degrees. The January high temperature is 70 degrees.
I don't know. This particular year, it feels a lot colder.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is if you go to the weather channels and their articles, they were predicting a warmer January than normal.
This is definitely not warmer than normal.
So we have had predicted for the rest of the month, and to date, we've had 16 days in January. We've been below the low. But we haven't been our coldest. Our coldest was like Christmas Day. That was 34 degrees. Would you believe it was in the 20s as a record this week in the past?
Was that the year when it snowed?
I don't really know what year it was. I didn't have a chance to see what year it was, but as cold as we are, we're still not record cold. We're definitely not record high. So we've had 16, we'll have 16 days in the month of January that below the average. And then we're going to have 11 days that are above the average.
And you guys know why Leo's talking about this, of course, because he's always freezing.
Yeah, I'm always freezing. So I just wanted statistics to prove.
Usually you're complaining about the air conditioning, not the air conditioning that God turned on outside.
Well, I live in a 100-year-old house, so the outside temperature is the inside temperature. And my wife decided to redo the floors with wood. So any sort of insulation I had in the flooring, like carpet and padding, that's all gone too.
So do you go to bed like with a beanie and socks and full gear to go to sleep?
Did you ever see the old Star Wars movie, The Empire Strikes Back?
I don't watch TV or Star
David?
Wars, remember?
Yes, absolutely.
That's
You know that blue parka thing that they're wearing at the beginning?
I know
on
what parka
Hoth?
is.
That huge, it's made out of some kind of dead animal, and it's blue, and it covers
what you're wearing
them
to
from head
bed?
to toe.
Right.
I wear that from the time I get off of work and this polo shirt comes off. I wear that from that point in time till I'm in the bed.
If you could pick the house, what would it be? What would you pick?
A house?
Yeah, custom. Would it be custom built?
If I were to pick a house, ideally I'd want a house between 5 and 7 years old. And the reason why I'd want a house between 5 and 7 years old is because I wouldn't have to deal with the man sitting directly across the table
Yeah.
from me. When you buy new construction and you buy houses that have never been done before, touched before, no one's turned on plumbing, no one's plugged in electrical, and they're experimenting with new building practices like stucco in the early 2000s, drywall cheap in the mid 2000s, polybutylene piping in the 80s. When you're experimenting, and right now they're experimenting with SIP panels. Right now they're experimenting with, I've already published a paper on this, the disaster coming with the new Florida Building Code. And the new Florida Building Code has a conflict in it between what they want you to do to the roof and what they want you to do in the attic.
What is the conflict?
They want you to insulate your house. So a lot of people are using that spray foam insulation in their attic.
Right.
They also want to protect your roof from any moisture intrusion, so they want you to use something called a peel and stick.
Right.
And when you combine the two, you have a roof that can't breathe. So what we're having now, and this has been happening for a couple of years, and I'm predicting a huge uptick in it this year, is roofs are melting. We have people talking about black tar coming through their air vents.
Have you taken pictures of that?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's in the report I published. It's coming through their bathroom exhaust vents. It's dripping down, and you look at the side of your building, and you see this black tar stuff dripping down your drip edges on the side. That's all because your roof system's melting. Because the Florida Building Code is now in conflict with itself.
They didn't talk to the engineers first. That's exactly what happened.
It's in conflict with itself. The insurance companies are driving these changes because they want a watertight roof. The building departments are driving the energy efficient changes because we want to reduce our carbon footprint. And when you combine the two, you lead to that. You also lead to tighter buildings.
So what is the combined solution? What's
the
a better
combined solution is the Florida Building Code gives you 5 options on underlayment now. The best solution is one of the more expensive ones. Use 2 layers of something. You don't stick to the deck. You have to use 2 layers of underlayment.
Okay.
But
the black stuff, right? We're talking about the white peel and
the black stuff they just nail to the deck.
Oh, got it.
You need to use 2 layers of that. But it's not the cheapest solution. That slows roofing crews down. That's going to drive roofing prices up. They'd rather just stick this stuff down. A couple of the stupid methods they have in the Florida Building Code is if you want to still use the stuff and you only want to use 1 layer of it, you can take tape and you can tape every single plywood joint.
Yeah, they're going to do that.
Yeah, then no one wants
Don't
to
you think,
do that.
David? Yeah. They're absolutely going to do that.
So we're going to have, and I'm glad David's here because David with Woods Trials Law, he handles these kind of cases. So if your roof starts melting come like June or July, you've got your roof.
Is this from 2021 builds?
Some companies have already started it. Now we're going to see a huge uptick in it because all the roofs being redone this week, come August or September, are going to start melting. And just when they start melting, the first person you want to call is David Greene because he's going to know exactly what to do.
All right, I want to see this. I haven't seen it.
Yeah, so I actually started seeing these a few years ago. So we had some clients doing high-end houses, and they'd have like a TPO roof, flat roof. They'd have closed cell foam insulation, and all of a sudden we'd have bubbling on the roof. This membrane's coming up. It looks like there's water or moisture trapped in there. We couldn't figure it out. The attic is sealed. It's conditioned. We have radiant barrier sheathing installed, and why are all these systems that are supposed to increase the efficiency of these roofs? Why are we having problems with them? And I think that's what you're talking about.
Yeah, no, that happens with TPO roofs especially. I've seen it in cases before where you remove the vent covers and it looks like it's raining inside the vent. Mm-hmm. I had a video sent to me. A friend just bought in Palmacia really, really well, and McMansion. They tear down a beautiful bungalow.
Yeah, we're running out of time. You don't hear the music?
I don't hear the music.
Okay, listen, our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You were getting on a rant, I figured.
Yeah.
We'll be back in a minute. Off-air number, if you got questions, 813-377-2775.
Welcome back. Leo Kane here with Barrel Engineering and Inspection. Katrina has stepped out, so it's just me and David Greene from Woods Trial Law. So yeah, about what I was saying before the break. Have a friend, airtight home. I get a video from them yesterday. It's literally raining outside of their laundry vent. And they ask, has this been found on the inspection? I'm like, well, are you running your dryer? Yeah. Is it really cold outside? Yeah. I'm like, well, then the dryer's functioning normally. That hot, moist air is leaving the building, and it's condensating down the side. But when you have that issue in your attic, and you've spray foamed your attic, and you've put the peel and stick up there, you've created an airtight layer, that just wants condensate.
Right. And same thing with if you have like unsealed ducting in your attic and you're running
definitely.
HVAC up there, you're going to get hot air, cold air mixing, you're going to have water and condensation. People are going to say, hey, why is it raining through my AC return vent? Why am I getting these strange water spots on my ceiling?
Yeah, and it's all because the houses they're building. So my 100-year-old home, I don't have any of these issues.
Right. But the one with the negative R value?
Yeah, I have negative R value. The outside temperature is the inside temperature. So it's just a trade-off. So yeah, January, coldest month of the year. We're even colder than normal. People are using their heaters. We're getting some rain. I mean, we're above average in rain too, because we're only 2.5 inches is supposed to be our 2.25 inches actually supposed to be our rainfall. But this month we've already had 3 inches. We still have half a month to go.
I'm ready for this cool weather to let up a little. It's been a bit much.
I'm looking forward to rainy season.
Me too.
Yes.
Phone starts ringing.
Yeah, that's interesting. So let's talk about this. Like, what type of construction law do you do? And I guess while we're on the topic of construction law, right, let's talk about what the builders tout, which is what they call the 210 warranty. So we dive into that a little bit?
Yeah, let's jump into it. So I've been doing construction defect for a lot of years. I kind of got started on that, working on personal injury issues on construction sites. A lot of people getting hurt with different types of equipment, people dying. And so we ended up coming in there and kind of defending them. And we were doing such a good job. The insurance carrier started hiring my firm at the time to start defending all these other claims with construction issues. So I actually got started representing the developers and the builders and the sub-trades, kind of defending all these construction defect issues. And I got a little discouraged working for these people. I'd start talking to the builders, I'd start talking to the contractors and say, well, hey, the code says this, how come you built it this way? And it's, well, this is the way we know how to do it. This is the way that's more profitable to us. But these homeowners are spending hundreds of thousands of dollars on these houses, and you're telling them, hey, we're not covering any warranties. You kind of get what you get, and after a year, they tell you to go pound sand and walk away.
What were some of the big things you were seeing that you felt like the builder should have covered and they weren't?
A lot of just bad workmanship, bad materials. You'd see roofs that weren't done properly. I had roofs where shingles, there's like a plastic strip that you're supposed to pull off to put the glue on there. They wouldn't even pull that strip off. They just nail the shingle up there and walk away. Lots of stucco. All the penetrations through your building envelope are going to give you a risk of water coming into your house. They would just do things not in accordance with the code. They would do them. Everybody would walk away. The builder would say, hey, all we did was pull permits. We're not responsible for this. It's all the homeowner's responsibility. And then people were saying, well, we just bought a new house. We spent all of our money on this house. We don't have tens of thousands of dollars to go fix up our brand new house. How come somebody won't help us out? And so that's kind of where I started coming over and now just representing basically owners and homeowner associations, condo associations, on a different scale. So all the way from, single family home residential cases up to you got 25, 30 townhouses. They've all got bad roofs, bad stucco. Your contractors haven't done something. The turnover didn't happen the way that it should have. And now a new association came in. They got no money for reserves. They got buildings that are crumbling. They're going to have to do a special assessment to everybody in the community.
Yeah. And let's equate what that means means to the homeowner? That means you're going to be paying if it's a special assessment.
That's right. So you get a nice invoice in the mail saying, hey, we need $15,000 from everybody because we need new roofing systems or a new parking structure.
I've been there before.
Yeah. So, Leo, this would be a great point just to kind of chime in and talk a little bit about your construction inspections. So they're a bit more expensive, but there's a lot more parts to it. And I would think that you would probably catch some of these things
We do.
that David's talking
so
about, right?
during new construction, we do periodic construction inspections. We touch a house 5 or 6 times before key points, like before they pour the slab, before they put drywall up covering the framing. We inspect the homes during these key points, and we catch defects. Like occasionally we'll catch they put the trusses in backwards. The trusses, everyone thinks they look like triangles up in your attic, but they need to go a certain direction, and sometimes they'll reverse it. And when they reverse it,
I was going to say, what does that mean? When
that
they put
means
them
the
in backwards?
load's not properly balanced. So you end up with sags, and you end up with what I call telegraphing, where you can actually see the whole truss system below the shingles. And then over time, everything just starts to collapse in. We had one where they reversed the trusses on a tile roof. So within 4 months after construction, the whole roof started to cave in and flatten out. All the trusses were snapping. And it's because they installed them backwards. And these are things you want to...
How does that even happen? Like, isn't somebody following the building plans?
You would think. So these builders are too busy. They go down to Home Depot. They pick up the homeless people at Home Depot, and they pick them up for the day to do skilled labor work.
Where's the construction superintendent?
He's driving the truck.
He's driving the truck to get the people from Home Depot.
I guess.
So here's the recipe for... This is why I will never buy new construction. You end up with...
So would you build it yourself and contract everything out?
5 to 7 years old house. That's what I want. 5 to 7 years.
Okay.
So long enough for these things to materialize.
Got it.
So basically the site supervisors are trying to find unskilled labor to do skilled labor. The subs are running wild on the job site. Everyone's too busy. And now the builder has hired their own in-house engineer to do the county inspections. So we're not even having true county supervision on this job. Not that county or cities actually do their job when it comes to inspection.
That's another whole subject.
That's a whole nother whole
you and I have talked about.
But at least having them come out is better than having some guy that sits in the Lennar or KB Homes or...
Let's not bash any of them in particular because they all have their issues.
They all have their issues, but the people sitting in those trailers, the construction trailers, would be different if they were down the street. And I'm not saying Lennar and KB are bad. It all comes down to the supervision of those crews and the handling of that subdivision. There are great subdivisions out there built by Lennar and KB.
That's where your inspector is going to catch those things. Like
yes.
if the builder's not doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Right. When the builder's not doing what they're supposed to be doing and they're cutting all the corners, you want to have someone find it. Otherwise, you end up with problems after closing, and then I hate to say David scare our listeners, but how long does a construction defect lawsuit usually take?
We're going to start talking years, and then we'll kind of go from there. It's a very slow process with a lot of moving pieces. I actually had a sister who built a new construction house up in South Carolina, and she had me review the contract. When she says it over, I want to build a house. Here's the form contract from the builder. I looked over it.
I can tell you what those look like.
I redlined everything. I said, oh, no, they're going to get you here, and this is bad here. And she said, well, what do I do about it? I said, well, if you want the house, you sign the contract.
That's right.
They're not going to change it.
So let's talk about that because we get that question very often. And one of the things we talked about, when you're buying a new home versus a resale, like you're saying, it's 5 or 7 years old.
5 to 7 is the sweet spot.
You're not using a FAR bar contract. That's kind of a pretty fair charge neutral contract to all parties, I would say, right? You've seen that contract. Right. And so if you're buying a home, you're going to be using a builder contract, and that builder contract is not buyer friendly. It is definitely builder friendly.
They definitely have a couple lawyers looking at this stuff, and they've definitely spent the time and energy to make this as favorable as possible.
Their lawyers wrote the stuff.
Absolutely.
Let's be real. Come on.
The whole team of lawyers.
Stacked against the person buying it. You're using their real estate agent, their mortgage company, they're the builder, they have their own in-house inspector.
They want control over everything.
Yeah, it's the company's store. I might as well just be a coal miner in the 1800s.
Yeah, so I mean, and here's the thing, and you get different questions. You say, well, why can't the builder just fix my problem?
Right.
And let's talk about how readily you see, because that path of least resistance is the best path. always, before you start a lawsuit, you were just directly, indirectly involved with something with my son.
Right.
And that was a mess, like a year in the making, that we were able to get fixed between yourself and Miss Erin Donovan. And
Shout out to Erin Donovan.
yeah, she's amazing. And I tell you, it's and this is what I was telling my son, because he's like, I'm just going to go get a lawyer. I'm just going to get this fixed. And I go, listen, honey, let me just tell you how this goes. Like, this is not a fast process, and it's not, but really it was, I think. And it's like you said, it can take years and years and years. So that path of least resistance, getting the builder to fix things and do the right thing, is always the best way to do it. And honestly, that's sometimes where an attorney like you or Erin can really come into play.
Right, and so I'm happy not to have to come onto a case too early. Obviously, I always say you should call a lawyer as soon as you think that there might be a problem.
Right.
You know, an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. So if I'm in there, like I was with my sister at the contract stage, where I actually said, okay, well, you're going to get screwed on the contract, but what you can do is hire a Leo to go in there and be there, you know, when your foundation's getting poured, when your frame's going up.
You want this house with this builder, you're signing it, but here's what to do.
Have somebody on your side. That's always the first rule.
So really, for, I mean, a consultation or to review it and write some love letters and have some communication, what, $300 or $500? I mean, it's well worth the money in advance to try to get them to cooperate, because let's face it, when they see demand letters from attorneys, you've got their attention, they're going to respond.
They sit up and they take note.
Yeah. So, and it's, you know, it's not to threaten them, it's just to make sure they're doing the right thing. And so our off-air number, in case you find yourself in one of these little pickles right now, if you haven't already hired Leo, or you want somebody like David to have a look, or your roof starts melting in summer, our off-air number is 813-377-2775. You can call or text that number anytime with questions or help, or if you need connections, 813-377-2775. We'll be back in just a moment. Stick around. All right, welcome back.
Well, this is normally the one where Adam Talley comes in
He's
from the
not
break.
here.
I know, but I think he's calling in
He is, yeah, in about 15 minutes or
for his
so.
2-minute tip of the week. But this is usually the break he brings us back in from, so that's why there was a
You're
pause.
just looking at me like, who's David? Are you jumping in? Yeah. So, yeah, we were just talking about like how much content we really have to cover, and I don't think we're going to get anywhere near where we should be in an hour. So we're
That
definitely
makes
gonna have
sense
to do
for having a
series.
lawyer on.
Yeah, I know. Well,
Paid by the word.
But this is a broad spectrum area of law, right? I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on. Let's talk about some of the common things, right? Let's just go where I love to start, just right down to the layperson. Just bought one of these brand new homes, right? Because there's so many of them going up, especially in Pasco. And the common defects you see. Well, give me the top 3.
Gotcha. So average person moves into the average new house, you know, maybe $250,000 to $400,000, somewhere in there. Most of the time what we see are a lot of punch list items. You know, so off the bat, you got drywall nails popping out, you got some mechanical systems maybe not working quite right. Your builder's usually working with you during that first year period pretty closely. They'll go ahead and seal up any cracks that might show up on your outside stucco, if you got stucco. But they're working with you, and they're trying to keep you happy. But
To a point.
But after your 11-month walkthrough, where you kind of sign off on the final list of saying these are all the things that I want you to fix, maybe the builder gets to some of them, maybe they skip a few, but at 12 months plus a day,
Bye, Felicia.
you you submit that warranty claim, and they quickly respond back and say, nope, sorry, you got a warranty. And you say, well, I have a 10-year warranty. Yeah, I have a 10-year warranty on this house. What's going on?
Why doesn't that cover my stucco cracks?
You didn't read the fine print. The 10-year structural component of the warranty. So a lot of people don't.
So what does that mean exactly? Like, what's in there?
What's a structural component? That's a big issue for us. So anything that's holding that house up, holding the frame up, your footers, your foundation, your framing systems, your roof trusses, those are all structural components. And so, if you can strip it away and not affect the integrity of the house, it's probably not a structural component. So if you've got drywall issues on the inside, you can pull that off. It's not going to affect the structure. You got kitchen sinks that are going bad, and that's not part of the structure either.
Tile popping,
hollow setting tiles. So most builders offer this kind of 210 warranty.
Right.
And so basically that's 1 year for workmanship. Basically kind of whole house will take care of anything pops up in that period. Past that, you have 2 years of coverage for distribution systems, mechanical, electrical, plumbing. Past that, you have no coverage up other than your 10-year structural warranty, and something's really got to go catastrophically wrong to impact that portion.
I don't like the way you say that as an attorney. It makes me nervous.
They're pretty hard to do that. And not only that, but it's not really your builder who's typically administering these warranties. When you submit a warranty claim, you're actually going to a third-party warranty administrator who has a relationship with the builder. The builder buys these warranties from another company and then sells them to you. And so the builder doesn't have any more responsibility. They're walking away from the project.
Which is just the way they want it.
They've made their money. They're not spending any more money on warranty claims. So their profits are secure. And then if you've got a problem, go talk to this neutral, I'm using air quotes, company over here. And so that's the pitch, is that, hey, we're a neutral company. We're not affiliated with the builder, so we can, independently analyze your claims. But if you're giving too much warranty coverage and you're paying out too much money, you're not going to start working with those builders anymore. And so there is kind of an implicit relationship there that they want to keep that business going, which means that they're going to deny a lot of claims. And usually that's where homeowners come over to somebody like me, is they've been through the process, they've opened warranty claims with the builders, they've tried to go through the process, nothing's happened. It's been a year, 2 years, they've spent time, money, and resources chasing this stuff down, and they're pulling their hair out saying, I bought a new house, but it's not going right, what can I do? And that's usually where I come in.
So let's talk about the stucco cracks, right? Because that's the big one. Like, they were like literally laughing at me on the break, like, you sound like the builder. Because I'm like, don't all the houses crack at some point? Like those little minor hairline cracks that you kind of seal with paint.
Okay, so
you're like, no.
New construction, if the house is built correctly, and to build a house correctly, you have a 3-coat stucco system, and you're supposed to keep the stucco moist. You're supposed to mist it during the construction process, and if you put the stucco on correctly and you mist it as you're supposed to, and you wait till the pH drops.
So like literally they just stucco the whole thing before they're even texturing it, mist it?
Now, what I've seen, I'll tell you how to do it correctly, then I'll tell you what I see.
Okay.
So you mist it, you put the final coat of stucco on, you mist it, the pH drops from 10 to like 8, then you put your 2 coats of paint on, you spray, and then you back roll. That house will not crack. Now, what I do see out there is they do a 3-coat stucco system, and they put their first coat on, and then 20 minutes later they put their second coat on. So you don't have the stucco doesn't have real layers; they bond together.
So it's supposed to be time, right?
It's supposed to be time.
Well, how much?
You're supposed to be
Doesn't
like
it take like
a
3
day,
days to cure?
a day to 3 days. So I've seen
Weather like this is definitely 3 days.
Oh yeah,
right?
yes.
Okay. The cold weather.
But at least now you're getting natural misting out there because the air is cold. But yeah, so I've seen it where they put the stucco layers on too fast. I've seen it where an hour after the final finish coat goes on, they start painting, and then your stucco with the pH high is just going to absorb the paint. So your waterproofing layer is just being absorbed. So I see that, and then I see them not properly
paint. There's not really
paint.
any paint at that point.
Right, it's just all sucked it in.
Got it.
I've also seen it where instead of using 1 bucket for every 600 square feet, they get 1,200 square feet because they'll water the paint down. These are all the things, and you can see them. There's things like alkali burn is what happens to the paint, or you can see the paint is streaking because it's been absorbed into the stucco. These are very obvious to see from a distance.
So you're telling me any cracks that you see, like right away, that come up in the first several months
are related to construction, and that's why the builders are so fast to come out there 2 or 3 times to patch these cracks, because at that point in time, they're not a major defect. So they seal it, and they put the little sealer on, and they say, you're good to go. And they'll do that up until the warranty's up, and then they say, oh, nominal settlement cracking from stucco in Florida. No, you just did a bad job, and everyone's accepting your bad job.
So let's talk about that, David, because is there like a statute of limitations, or like what's your take on all that?
Right. So, stucco cracking is one of the biggest issues we've seen with homeowners. It's unsightly. It affects the integrity of your building envelope. It's going to let water coming in. I mean, if you can show these pictures of what these houses look like, sometimes where I get to them, which is 4, 5, 6 years after construction, where you can start seeing a lot of cracking. But then you kind of fast forward that 12 to 15 year clock, and the stucco is completely pulling apart from wood frame portions of the house. You've got lots of wood rot.
We saw a lot of that.
It's falling on people.
Part of Land O'Lakes where it's just falling off.
And there's not a great repair other than going into that framing and ripping stuff out from the wood out and redoing it all. And guess who gets to foot that bill?
Homeowner.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
well, they probably can they make an insurance claim on that? Probably not.
Typically
right?
not. So let's talk a quick section about insurance coverage. So homeowners will usually say,
Too bad Adam's not here. We'd have some fun with him on this one.
So the insurance policies that you would look into. So you call up your homeowner's insurance company, Allstate, State Farm, whatever, and say, hey, I've got stucco cracks. It's affecting my house. Here's my insurance claim. The adjuster will come out, look at there, and say, yeah, you've probably got cracks. They're probably related to initial construction defects, and we're going to deny your claim. The reason why is because your policy started when you took possession of the house. This was already done before you took possession of the house. These defects predate your policy. There's no coverage. Good luck.
I feel like the poor homeowners, like when from their shoes, people are going this. Like they're like pointing in the opposite direction. No one's to blame. Everyone else is at fault.
Right.
And then the homeowner is really just the one that suffers.
Right. And so when I take these cases to trial, we're at a final hearing. One of the best arguments I have is that whatever we've done on this side from the homeowner's perspective, and sometimes that's a lack of maintenance or something like that, whatever we did didn't affect how they constructed the house. And everybody on that side of the table, the builder, the developer, the subcontractors, they all had a hand in it. And whatever fingers they want to point, it's all on that side of the table. And so that's where we come in, and kind of my job is to kind of get these people squared into their scopes of work. So, builder, you were supposed to pull permits, you were supposed to supervise, you had the ultimately, they call it a non-delegable duty to make sure this stuff was done correctly.
Which means ultimately it's on their shoulders,
right,
regardless of what the subs are doing.
Right, so anybody who was doing work for them, they ultimately sign off for it. All the subcontractors, they've got laws and statutes in place that say, hey, if you're doing work, if I'm the painter and I'm painting around a window and I notice it doesn't have a channel where I can put sealant in or something like that, I'm supposed to go tell the builder, hey, builder, I can't do my work because somebody before me did work incorrectly.
If I was a contractor, I would be documenting that in an email, just saying.
Right. Do you think you're going to get called back for the next job?
No.
No.
Yeah,
You're a pain in the butt.
Yeah.
They don't want you there. They like to, quote, value engineer the projects so they can maximize profits.
So let's talk about this, because we talked about how one side of the contracts are that the builders have, and it's really not that charge neutral contract. All of these have to go through arbitration and mediation first. Is that right?
Sometimes. So arbitration is kind of like an alternative to state court. So it's a creature of contract. Usually it's between an original owner and the builder. There's a contract in your big purchase and sale agreement that says, hey, if I've ever got a problem, I agree not to sue them in state court, but I will bring my claims to arbitration.
So they can never sue?
Sometimes, yeah, typically, even for state claims, the courts will say you have state claims, you have statutory claims, but you just have to bring those in a different forum. And the courts,
so break that down a little bit more in lay terms.
Sure. So arbitration is basically a private forum. So it's a private company that exists to try and resolve these claims outside of the court system.
Right. And if we can't? Then I can't sue?
Arbitration is typically final. So if you have an enforceable arbitration agreement.
Binding.
Got it.
It's the difference between binding and non-binding.
Right.
Got it.
So if you have typically a binding arbitration contract, that's your avenue for recourse.
Is that most of the builder's contract?
It's becoming a lot more and more. And matter of fact, there's a case up right now in the Florida Supreme Court called Hayslip versus U.S. Home that I was involved with back in the second DCA. The issue there was whether or not the builder can record in the deed to you an arbitration provision.
Oh.
And so it's not even in the contract, but binding everybody who ever owns that property after you.
Oh, that's not fair.
Saying
they didn't
that-
even execute the contract.
Correct. So there's no contract between you and the fourth line buyer. And there's nothing in the record that says, hey, there's an arbitration agreement. But the builder will come back and say, we're enforcing it because it was a matter of public record, and you don't get your day in court, Mrs. Fourth Home Buyer, because we have a deed that says you have to take this to arbitration.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and so a lot of the title, attorneys are up in arms about that,
They're
saying,
like,
well,
we don't want part of
yeah,
this.
we have to tell clients now that this is like a substantial, impact on the value of the property, and so this is being briefed right now in the Supreme Court.
Technically, it could be a title defect, really. I mean, because then another attorney could sue and just say, well, this had a title defect that you guys didn't document.
Right. And so that's causing a lot of problems. So that's an issue that we're going to have to resolve. So we're happy to go to arbitration, if we need to. I prefer state court when I can. I think the jury of your peers is better.
Wow.
But you do have a way to get through there, so we can kind of talk about what that process might look like.
We'll talk about that. And then I would also like to know, what is one of the wildest ones you've ever worked on? Like, tell me about the craziest scenario, like, oh my gosh, I can't believe people even have to deal with this. Like, think about a case you had that was like that, and we'll just talk about what that looked like. Maybe it'll give somebody a little bit different perspective. Should be back with Adam Talley in just a moment, and we come back after the break, and it'll be a short segment. But our off-air number is 813-377-2775.
That's 813-377-2775. Text the word defect to
813-377-2775. We're here with David Greene. He's one of the partners at Woods Trial Law, and he can answer all of your construction defect questions. So if you got them, text them. We'll be back in a minute. And we're back.
Adam?
With Adam Talley.
Adam?
Yeah, hey, Adam's here. I'm here.
We were waiting for you.
To take us out of the break.
Well, I didn't want to talk over anybody. How's everybody doing this morning?
We're doing great. You should be here. You'd make a great addition to the conversation, even though you might not want to.
Goodness, I've been listening to the entire show. I've learned a lot. It's been great. And before I get into the tip, I liked Leo's company store analogy there, because don't forget they'll also sell you the insurance policy too. So they're gonna try to screw you from every angle.
Nice addition. Is this your tip of the week?
Adam's bashing insurance. I love this. You've come a long way, Adam. We've come a long way.
Well, here's the problem. You go to the builder's insurance, and if I'm showing you a quote from the same carrier and theirs is $200 less, you just got to start thinking what they didn't include that should be included. So, talk about a claims nightmare in the future if you don't have personal property replacement cost or any of these other things that are important, and they really drive down the dwelling value when they do it. So it's certainly we've got some issues going on that way. So
we're gonna have to do a show that's like 9
that
reasons why you need representation when you go to a builder.
Or why you shouldn't build your own home.
Exactly. Well, hey, you can use your own real estate agent if you want to buy a new home. You can use your own mortgage company. There's nothing that says you have to use, D.R. Horton, XYZ.
Let's not be bashing on any one particular builder.
I'm not bashing on anybody. You already mentioned Lennar and KB. So
I didn't mention.
I just mentioned them because they're the biggest box builders in the area, and I'm just saying that it all comes down to the individual supervisors and what kind of oversight they have. You can
Correct.
get custom home builders can also be bad.
It's not going to be, it's never going to be perfect, right?
So what's your tip of the week? Get your own insurance. Don't listen to the builder's insurance company.
Well, no, my tip of the week this week is, obviously we've talked about the homeowners rates going up quite a bit, but we've seen a lot of auto rates go up too. But something that I get a question on almost a couple times a week is, hey, I'm not driving anywhere. I'm working from home. Why is my insurance rates going up?
That's a good
And
question.
there's a lot of good programs out there with the carriers that are going to do usage-based insurance, where you might put that little telematics device in your car, or you might use a cell phone app. They're giving you a discount up front, and then they're giving you that personalized rate. Now, one that I've seen that's very unique is through Nationwide, and they have a pay-per-mile program. So you're getting a big discount up front for doing it, and then they're giving you an average miles per day, roughly based on what you tell them you're driving. And if you go below that, your next month's premium is going to be less. You go a little bit above that, next month's premium is going to be a little bit more, but the end result is you're only paying for what you're using, which I think is pretty unique.
I guess with how insurance is going up, if you got a long commute, you can just rent a car, right? Or ride with someone else.
Well, if you have a long commute, that's probably not the best program for you. But
I meant like not the everyday, like a interrupt.
Yeah. Well, everybody, has their own situation, but especially for those people that are now work from home. I have some friends that work for Progressive. They're still working from home. They've been working from home for a year almost.
I think that's going to carry on for a while. It's going to be probably the new norm into 2021.
Yeah, so if you're one of those people that's looking at your premium and wondering why it's $3,000 every 6 months and your car's sitting parked in your driveway, now's a good time to shop around and see if one of these usage-based
Definitely.
programs is right for you.
Just text Adam or insurance to 813-377-2775. We'll get you connected so he can have a look at this with you and let you know how he can save you some money. Thanks, Adam.
Absolutely. Well, thanks, guys. Have a great weekend.
You too. So 813-377-2775. If you want to check out some of these programs, Adam can have a look and give you an idea what's out there. 813-377-2775. All right, David. So what is one of the wildest things that you can think of that comes to mind when I ask you what you've seen in terms of construction or defect claims in this ballpark?
So I picked one that just came across my desk a few weeks ago. So this was a homeowner who reached out to me. They were having some remodeling done to their second story of their house. They wanted to put a new sink in, a little wet bar area, and so they hired a contractor to do it. The contractor is doing the work, and then all of a sudden, after a certain amount of progress, they started noticing on the first floor, hey, my ceiling is looking a little saggy.
It's dipping.
It's
saggy. I like
it's a little
saggy.
A nice little sag area over here. That shouldn't be happening. So
How long after the work was that? Just
not
curious.
long. Not long. It was pretty immediate after. And so they went back upstairs and they pulled some boards over. And I know you can't see the pictures here, but there is a nice big drain line that the plumber had to install on the second floor, which was supported by some floor joists. And so if we can't go over and we can't go under, we're going to go right through. So he cut through 9 structurally supporting floor joists to run his wet bar drain line.
Leo was looking at this having heart palpitations.
That
I'm just
looks
saying.
great. No, I love that sort of thing.
Yeah, and so if you can't see the picture here, that's 9 floor joists with a nice big notch cut out to run the drain line.
That's not a notch. He cut the joist in. He cut out a section of the joist. When you notch a joist, you put a small hole in it, and the joist is still whole.
It's a notch.
No, that's a notch. This is basically we're removing 2 inches of joist straight down the path.
Yeah, he grabbed his Sawzall, he went to work and cut out a couple chunks and said, hey, looks pretty good. We're done here.
Leo,
Moving on.
how the heck would you fix that? Can you
Do we need a dump button?
Yeah, I think Pat got it. How would you fix this? Like literally, there's cuts through the joists.
No, fixing it would involve removing the pipe. No, you have to basically replace those joists. You have to basically take sistering on both sides and create a new joist that way. But as far as what they should have done, they would have had to use some kind of we call it red steel. But red steel is when you remove a structural element and you replace it with metal so it maintains integrity. So you would have to actually embed some kind of red steel in there so you can then run your pipe through it. But to fix that, you have to remove the pipe, you have to scab it over, and then I wouldn't feel comfortable adding the steel next to that because now you'd have 2 weaknesses as opposed to just one.
Right.
So how are we fixing that? I mean, you rip out all the floors, you're changing the floor joists.
Yeah, pretty much.
Then what?
Well, once you've ripped out all the floors and you've replaced it with a new floor joist, the floor joist itself can accommodate because it can be constructed to accommodate the pipe.
All right.
Yep. So that's a very expensive fix to
Very
a fairly
expensive.
inexpensive bid, and so that's one of the lessons.
You're still working on this, I take it. It's going to be a long while.
Still working on this one, but that just shows you that one bad subcontractor can affect a lot of different types of work in your house.
And then, if you have the claim, you probably won't have the insurance. They're probably going to drop you, all that fun stuff. All right.
Insurance is there for you to use. Do
That's
not
right.
be scared to file a claim.
If you start seeing some dips in your roof or your middle, after this, call or text 813-377-2775. We'll get you connected with David Greene. Thanks for being our expert on
Thanks for
construction
having
law
me.
defects. We're glad you're here, and we may take you up on that series. So
Come back.
stick around. We'll be back next with Dr. Trinette Moss. We're going to tell you how she can help you if you don't have any insurance. Stick around. We'll be back in a moment.